Over the years, there's been many people who have claimed to be Jesus Christ, whether it's because they have psychological issues or as an attempt to obtain power, wealth, or control. And despite the fact that these people clearly are not Jesus, some have gained huge mass followings of believers. Unsurprisingly, a lot of these fake Jesus-created cults obtain power and wealth and commit some of the most disgusting sexual crimes, as well as blackmail, extortion, murder, and other sexual assaults. In this video, I wanted to focus on a man by the name of Jim Jones, an American who created the People's Temple, which would lead to the deaths of over 900 Americans. Born May 13, 1931 in Crete, Indiana, he began his ministry in the 1950s as a Methodist and gained a reputation as a charismatic churchman who claimed to have psychic powers such as the ability to foretell the future and miraculously heal those who were sick. In 1955, he established the Wings of Deliverance, a Pentecostal church that eventually became known as the People's Temple. In its early years, it was actually fairly progressive. It was against racial integration, and he himself was also the director of Indianapolis's Human Rights Commission. The church itself was actually racially mixed and it believed in social equality, and these are the things that made it very popular initially with people, especially in the 1950s and 60s. During their time in the temple, a lot of these devoted and hardworking people actually performed altruistic deeds for the community, and some of them themselves had turned their lives around by getting off drugs and crime. So initially, the church was actually had a quite positive effect on the community it was in. In the mid-1960s, he and his wife incorporated the People's Temple in California and settled outside the town of Ukiah with some 100 followers, believing that the move would protect them in the event of a nuclear holocaust. However, as time passed, Jim became more and more authoritarian. He began to get allegations of using his members' money for his own personal use. Because of this and other mounting allegations, Jim and his followers would move to Guyana and set up an agricultural commune called Jonestown in 1977. So Jim would have multiple ways of controlling his followers, which would ramp up as soon as they moved into this isolated. He would confiscate all of his followers' passports and millions of dollars of their money. He was also known to manipulate his followers with threats of blackmail, beatings, and possible death. His control and power just grew more and more. By moving his followers to Jonestown, he isolated his followers from the outside world physically and psychologically. The community was located in a remote area of Guyana, making escaping extremely difficult for the members. Members were also discouraged from maintaining contact with family and friends outside of the group, which fostered a sense of dependence on the temple for social support. Jones also instilled fear in his followers through various means, including public humiliations, threats of violence, and staged loyalty tests. Members were led to believe that terrible consequences awaited them if they broke the rules or left the group. He also had constant indoctrination sessions, made his followers sleep deprived, and manipulated their emotions to break down resistance and foster unquestionable loyalty. He also manipulated his followers financially, coercing them into donating their money, property, and possessions to the People's Temple. Members were often made to turn over their assets as a demonstration of commitment to the cause. And I'm sure you, as well as I, can see how this is becoming more and more of a cult. And we're starting to see the same themes that we see with any sort of religious cults, where it's about obtaining power and wealth and control. He would also punish his followers by giving them less food, by making them work more hours. He controlled every aspect of his followers' lives. He claimed to be the only heterosexual male on earth, although he did not practice what he preached, as he reportedly slept with both male and female followers. There are numerous accounts from former members of People's Temples describing instances of sexual misconduct and coercion by Jones. He used his position of authority and influence to engage in these sexual relationships and would effectively rape both male and female followers. He also would sleep with his followers' wives and coerce women into getting abortions, which to me doesn't seem very Jesus-like. He was also reportedly apparently addicted to pharmaceutical drugs, which made him more and more paranoid. The thing that made the People's Temple famous, or infamous is the word better to describe this, was the Jonestown Massacre. Now, up until 9/11, the Jonestown Massacre on November 18th, 1978 represented the largest number of American civilian casualties in a single non-natural event. The events that led to the tragic event was when a delegation led by Congressman Leo Ryan visited Jonestown to investigate reports of abuse and mistreatment of its members. Some members expressed their desire to leave, which made Jones more paranoid, and as a result he ordered an attack on the group at the airstrip. Multiple members of the temple themselves tried to escape with the congressman, but unfortunately Congressman Ryan, as well as 4 others including reporters, were killed as a result. Shortly after this, Jones convinced his members, as well as coercing some of others, to drink cyanide-laced punch, starting with the children first by squirting it into their mouths with a syringe. As a result, over 900 people died that day. People claim it was mass suicide, while me personally, I would think it was more along the lines of mass murder. Jim Jones did the honourable yet cowardly thing and shot himself in the head before anyone could get to him. Officers would later find a cache of weapons, hundreds of passports, and $500,000 American dollars, reportedly millions more being deposited in banks' accounts overseas. This was effectively the end of the People's Temple. The phrase drinking the Kool-Aid has become somewhat of a cultural expression in America in particular, which is often used to describe unquestioningly accepting an ideology, which is obviously referencing to the fact that they drank poisoned punch. There's no better way of describing the People's Temple other than a cult. Jim Jones was a piece of shit, and for someone who claimed to be, at some point of his life, he did not practice what Jesus preached. He didn't even practice what he preached. And this man forced and convinced his followers to commit mass suicide. A huge chunk of them with your children. So again, we have an example of someone who uses religion as a way to control, manipulate, get sexual gratification, and gain power. And it's a cliche that just goes across all of these religious cults that popped up, especially in America. And I personally don't even blame the followers, because, you know, if you're isolated and you're forced to believe this belief system and you're punished time and time again, like, psychologically you can be manipulated. And if you're someone that's trying to find meaning in life and feel like there's a purpose to it, someone like Jim Jones could provide you with some answers. But I feel nothing but heartache for the children who were forced to die as a result of this insane person's belief system, to which I don't even think he really believed in what he was preaching. I think he just used it as an excuse to commit mass murder, assault, gain power, and gain a vast amount of wealth. The Jonestown Massacre remains a deeply tragic and harrowing chapter in history, which highlights the dangers of unchecked power, charismatic manipulation, and the potential for mass exploitation with certain religious and social movements. And I think it needs to be something that we have to remember, and we have to make sure it doesn't get drowned out in history, because we need these reminders, we need these events to stop these kind of cults cropping up again. Now, unfortunately, there's millions of examples going around of, even in the last 10-15 years, of people coming out claiming to be Jesus. There's a Russian dude in Serbia who claimed he was Jesus, who was arrested by Russia a couple of years ago. Although it seems to me that a lot of the time that these religious fanatics don't really actually have the religious backing or religious beliefs that they claim to. It's obviously disgusting, irreprehensible, irredeemable behavior, and Jim Jones is just an example of many, many others who have done the same. The story of the People's Temple is vast and interesting, and I kind of just fixate on the things that I found the most interesting, mostly just about the massacre itself, but also just the psychological power that people can have on others through this religious bullshit is always, extremely hard and upsetting. And as someone that is very much agnostic, it hurts. I feel nothing but sorrow for the people who are victims of this radical ideology. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe as always. If there's anything interesting about the People's Temple that I didn't come across in my research, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what I missed out on. And that's pretty much it. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Peace out.